ලොව විහිදා සුදු පැහැ සඳ රසිව් සැදී දින නොමදා සිරි සංග මුක් සැප නිසැදී ලද මුනිදා දම් කඳ පහස මන බැඳී වදු දලදා හිමි තෙමහල් පහය රැඳී
ඔබ සැමට උතුම් දළදා සමුදුන්ගේ ආශිර්වාද ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. ඓතිහාසික කන්දුරට ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ සිව්වන කුඹල් පෙරහැර අද දින විදි සංචාරය කිරීම සඳහා සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම්. ඓතිහාසික ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ වාර්ෂික සතර මහා මංගල්‍යයන් අතරින් වසරේ වැදගත්ම මංගල්‍ය වන්නේ ඓතිහාසික ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යය. ඒ නිසාවෙන් මෙවරත් මේ පෙරහැර ඉතාමත් විශිෂ්ට අයුරින් සංවිධානය වෙලා තිබෙනවා. මල්ලතු අස්කිරි උභය මහා විහාරීය මහානායක මහින්පාණන් වහන්සේලාගේ අවවාද අනුශාසනා පෙරදැරිව ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ ගරු දේවර්ණ නිලමේතුමන් සිව් මහා දේවාලයන්හි බස්නායක නිලමේතුමන්ලාගේ අවවාද අනුශාසනා සහ සංවිධාන ශක්තියෙන් පෙරහැර සංවිධානය වෙනවා. ඒ නිසාවෙන් සෙන්කඩගල නුවරට පැමිණ මේ පෙරහැරේ අසිරිය සියසින් දැක බලා ගන්නා මහජනතාවට අමතරව නිවසේ සිට රැඳී සිටින ඔබ වෙනුවෙන් අපි මේ පෙරහැරේ සිරි විසිතුර ඉතාමත් දසුන් ඉතාමත් අලංකාරව ඔබට ගෙන එන්නට සමීප කරන්නට සූදානම්. ඒ නිසාවෙන් අපි ඉතාමත් ඔබට ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කරනවා එක්කස් වන්න ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ මාධ්‍ය අංශ ඔස්සේ ඔබට ගෙන එන ඓතිහාසික කන්දුරට ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ සිව්වන කුඹල් පෙරහැරේ සිරි විසිතුර සජීව විඳ ගැනීම සඳහා. கோஷி
நன்றி ரோகண. பக்த அடியார்கள் அனைவருக்கும் அன்பு வணக்கம். 1715வது முறையாக எடுக்கப்படுகின்ற கண்டி அசல பெரஹரவினுடைய 4ஆம் நாள் கும்பல் பெரஹரா வீதி வலம் வந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றது. கண்டி மாநகரை சூழ்ந்துள்ள அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என வரவேற்பதுடன் இக்காட்சிகளை நேரடியாக காண முடியாதவர்கள் டெவலப் தொலைக்காட்சி 20 POTV 20310 ஃப்ரீசெட் 2 மற்றும் ஸ்ரீ தலதா மாளிகையினுடைய ஃபேஸ்புக் யூடியூப் பக்கங்களினூடாக நேரலையாக கண்டுகளிக்க முடியும். தொடர்ச்சியாக எங்களுடன் இணைந்திருங்கள். தில்ஹாரா.
Thank you, Goshika. Today you will be with the 4th Kumbal Procession of Kandy Esala Perahera 2025, which is taking place for 1715 time. The ceremonial procession today commenced at the auspicious hour of 6:54 p.m. heading towards the auspicious direction of north. The ceremonial tusker Indira Raja will be carrying the sacred relic casket with the tuskers Buruma Raja and Pulatisi Raja. So this invitation is to all of you to come and witness this grand occasion if you are around the corner of Kandy Citadel. If you are at your home, you can just tune in into channel number 310 and 20 on Pure TV, channel number 20 on Dialogue TV, channel number 2 on FreeSat. And also you can watch the live broadcasting of today's procession through all the social media platforms of Sri Dalada Media Bureau. So this is all about the 4th Kumbal Procession of Kandy Esala Perahera 2025. Stay tuned.
Utum Dalada Samidu Petai. We are delighted to welcome you to the special live broadcast of the 4th Kumbal Perahera of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2025, brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa Kandy. You are now seeing the Perahara officials obtaining the permission and blessings of the Gajanayake Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic, before commencing their street perambulations. This is the handing over of keys by the Gajanayake Nilame to the officiating bhikkhus. We are now seeing the custodian venerating prelate of the Malwatu Mahavihara, Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Medankarabhidana Theru, making his way from the upper level, the Ihalamalaya, to the lower level of the chamber known as the Pathamalaya, to the Vedasitina Maligawa, ceremoniously and reverentially carrying the Perahara relic casket under much reverence to the ceremonial tusker, amidst the offering of light, sounds, scents, flowers, all the way from the upper chamber till it is placed on the awaiting tusker. We are now seeing the Perahara casket, which contains 32 relics of Lord Buddha, now being placed within the Run Hiligate that is mounted on the lavishly costumed tusker, who will uplift the majesty of the great procession.
These officials are seen offering flowers and floral garlands to the Perahara casket, and this is the fourth procession of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2025. The grand festival of respect that pays homage to the sacred tooth relic to honor Lord Buddha.
And this is the devout moment when the royal tusker shall step majestically down from the Mahavahalkada, the main entrance, to the Sandagala, the moonstone, amidst the tune of traditional Naga Singham music, in preparation to parade the streets of this Candian city. Today, the royal tusker will be Indira of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
On this year 2025, we are witness the grace of 1750th Perahara that had begun during the region of King Kirti Singha Megavardhana, who pledged that the relics must be carried around the city once a year, and this tradition still continued, followed by the succession of many ruling kings, prime ministers and president of our country.
Walking up front with the sound of thundering whips piercing through the skies are the whip crackers, announcing that the procession has commenced, and these whip crackers are tasked with clearing the way for the sacred relic casket and the king.
When looking back at history, in the ancient times, it was the ruling king who would parade the streets in Perahara, but now it's the Gajanayake Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, who will resemble the king in modern day Perahara.
The Perahara is believed to be held in prayer for timely rainfall, and the elements of the Perahara is structured in a symbolical way that it paints the imagery of a rainfall. Rain would never be showered without the striking sound of thunder, and these whip wielders are the symbolic imagery to depict the sound of lightning and thunder, to pay homage to the rain gods, requesting to bless our crops and cultivations with rain.
The whip master's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans, and only those who mastered the art of whip cracking will be taken to participate in Kandy Esala Perahera. According to traditions, a Perahara which does not have this pedigree are not even being called such.
The whipmaster's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans, and only those who have mastered the art of whip cracking will be taken to participate in the Kandy Esala Perahera. According to traditions, a Perahera which does not have this pedigree are not even being worth called such. In single file, we see the whipmasters carefully manipulating their whip that is nearly 7 feet in length, and it's made fully out of natural materials known as niaga and navapatta, which indicates how traditions have been preserved and the authentic methods have not changed throughout the parading history of 1715 years.
The most revealing narration of the Esala Perahera is found in the book written by the Chinese pilgrim Fa Hian in the 5th century. The sporadic invasion by the Dravidians resulted in the shift of the kingdom from Anuradhapura to several destinations: Polonnaruwa, Dambadeniya, Yapahuwa, Kurunagala, Kotte and Gampola. With the final shift of the kingdom to this great city of Kandy, the relics have remained undisturbed, and thereby the Kandy Esala Perahera has been held annually to rejoice and honor to the sacred tooth relic.
We now see the fireball acrobats, which are led by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna.
Rain does not come with thunder alone. Just as lightning flashes across the skies, the procession too has its flashes of light dancing across the faces of the people lining the streets to watch. These are the fireball dancers who are offering fire, inviting the rain gods to water our lands with rain. Even though it seems very paradox to learn that we are offering fire to seek for water, this phenomenon of nature is magnificently depicted by this group of fireball dancers who perform this thrilling stunt of acrobatics while illustrating how lightning comes with the rain. The turning of fireballs is called Pandam Paliya, which paints the night with varied patterns of light using both hands and feet, along with the thrilling episodes of fire stunts. Back in history, Kandyan performing arts have been classified into 5 variants, which were known as Wahala Ilangama, Singakari Ilangama, Tambara Pittukari Ilangama, Natum Ilangama and Kavikara Maduwa. Interestingly, it was the king's order that all 5 of these classifications must be performed in Perahara, which is the royal order that is still being obeyed since the ancient times till in the modern days. The classification of Wahala Ilangama that was mentioned before comprises of act that creates a sense of thrill among the spectators, and the fireball dance we see in front of us is one such example of performing art that belong to the Wahala Ilangama. The oil-soaked rags are tied to an iron wheel with leather thongs attached to it, and once they lit, the dancers perform their acrobatic dance by turning the fired wheels fast, gradually increasing its speed to match the real feel of the lightning itself. The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic, and the fireball dance highlights these universal cycles while depicting how they burn.
Coming up next, we have the Buddhist flag bearers, which are represented by the inmates of the Pallekele open prison camp. The Buddhist flag bearers, who are clad in white national costumes and carrying the most respected flag of Buddhism, while being preceded by the national flag of Sri Lanka. The sight of these Buddhist flags create a sense of tranquility among the spectators, reminding us the fact that this procession is in celebration, devotion, and as an offering to the great Lord Buddha.
A priority of the Kandy Esala Perahera is to reflect the unity of Sri Lanka as a nation, which in here is symbolized by the national flag that was leading the army of flags. The Buddhist flag is the symbol of faith and peace. The 6 colors of flag represents the color of aura that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the sacred Bodhi tree. The colors displayed in the Buddhist flag represents the perfection of Buddhahood and the Dhamma, his preachings.
An ancient poem translated from the book Sanka Raja recites the story of the Kandy Esala Perahera as follows. The kingdom of Senkadagala, the procession of the month of Esala, hailed from times ago in favor of the gods above, led by the grace of the Buddha, followed by the deities, the Perahara shall perambulate, just as the kings did commemorate. We now see the sword bearers of the 4th Kumbal Perahera, which are being represented this evening by the Angampura team of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
Walking in great discipline in their calm and disciplined nature are the army of sword bearers who provide protection to the Perahara casket. Since the ancient times, the sacred tooth relic has played an important role in local politics, since it was believed that whoever who hold the sacred tooth relic shall hold the governance of the country. From the Anuradhapura era to the Kandyan era, there have been several battles over the tooth relic, and it has always been protected by the patriotic warriors, and this is a lesson we need to teach our children, a story to be proud of, and also that if not for them, we would have lost the sacred tooth relic.
We are now seeing the first elephant of this evening's Perahara, leading the way with the Peramunerala, the magnificent sight of, along with the magnificent sight of the very first elephant. And this elephant with the Peramunerala is Banda, belonging to the Honorable Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Honorable Pradeep Nilanga Dala. It is the norm of the Perahara that the Peramunerala, or the front runner of the procession, is the first person on elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to parade before the Peramunerala. Clad in the traditional white costume that comprises of the white jacket, the triangular hat, the Peramunerala comes into sight, carrying the secretarial scroll known as the Lekam Meteor, which is encased in the long cylindrical silver casket. The particular scroll that is encased in this casket is made of ola leaves, a traditional form of paper of the native Sri Lankans, and this scroll contains a full description of the procession, royal duties and assets affiliated to Sri Dalada Maligawa, and the duty of the Peramunerala is to inform the citizens of the country that the procession is being carried out in compliance to the directives of the scroll. The elephant Banda who we see here was an elephant who was gifted to the herd to the legend of domestic elephants in the year 1979 and is currently owned by the Honorable Diyavadana Nilame. Following Banda, we are seeing the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
They perform in dignified presence in front of the procession as a tradition which they practice with majestic skill. In fact, no Panchathurya or traditional orchestra of Sinhalese music that produce sounds using either drums or the musical instruments is permitted before the Hevisi as per the rule of Kandy Perahera tradition. Sri Lanka is rich with its own genres of traditional music and Hevisi, which is dignified as the authentic sound of Sri Lanka. The history of Hevisi takes back to the time when the sapling of Jayasri Mahabodhi tree was brought down to Sri Lanka by Sangamitha Therani, and this evidence marks the fact that Hevisi is the oldest traditional orchestra and Buddhist sound offering in Sri Lankan heritage. Hevisi, as the most prominent orchestra of the fivefold musical instruments, too has its own variants that are authentic to various parts of the country, known as Upcountry, Low Country and Sabarang. The speciality of the Kandy Esala Perahera is the pure domination of upcountry tradition, art. Therefore, this particular Hevisi instrumental performance belongs to the upcountry tradition of Hevisi, which is known as Udarata Hevisi in Sinhalese. The fivefold musical instruments, as recognized by Sri Lankan music culture as Panchathuryanada, is noted as Adata, the instrument played by both hands, Vitata, instruments played using sticks, Vitadadata, the instruments played using the hand and stick, Gana, instruments that are dashed with each other, and Sushira, the instruments that are blown. This arrangement of upcountry ensembles of Hevisi consists of 4 out of 5 mentioned tunes, except for the Gataberaya that represents the Arthada tune. We would identify the other instruments that are played in here, we see Horanava, or the traditional windpipe that represents the tune of Sushila, the Thammatama, or the kettle drum that represents the tune of Vitatha, the Daula that represents the tune of Vitathatha, and Thalampata, or the little hand cymbal that represents the tune of Ganan. The musicianship of the Hevisi in Kandy Esala Perahera and for the day rituals of Sri Dalada Maligawa are assigned to the most skilled lineage of Hevisi drummers who are Uduvela, Ihalavela, Malagamana and Molagoda, who represented the first row of the Hevisi troupe while marching to the beat of the drums. Apart from the key lineages, we also see the presence of Hevisi lineage in this Perahara representing Valletota, Moradahanda, Hevavissa, Kahalla and Udupihilla.
Riding on the second elephant with dignified majesty is the Gajanayake Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. The Gajanayake Nilame is the royal official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, and it was a position given to him directly by the king himself. To symbolize this ancient decree, the Gajanayake Nilame, who is attired in the traditional Sinhala Mul Anduma, majestically approaches on a tusker while holding the Ankusaya, which is the the symbol of the Gajanayake Nilame. And this evening, the Gajanayake Nilame is riding on the tusker Sanka Raja belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa. According to the Perahara tradition, the Gajanayake Nilame obtains the Ankusaya from the Basnayaka or the Diyavadana Nilame after bowing down in respect and obtaining his blessings. It is the custom of the Perahara that no official shall proceed in the Perahara without the blessings of the symbol that is handed over by the lay custodian. The present Gajanayake Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa is Mr. Palitha Jayawardena, and he is in charge of all the elephants and tuskers who walk in the procession of the Sri Dalada Maligawa this evening. Following the Gajanayake Nilame, now we will be seeing the Kotalapad dance performance. And this dance item is represented by Mr. Nalin Jayasekara of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Kotalapadaya is one of the most gentle dance performances of the upcountry tradition of dance, which is traditionally a dance of purity. The dancers carry a pot of saffron water on one hand and an areca nut flower on the other hand, and this dance symbolizes purifying the root in which the sacred tooth relic casket shall be carried. Kotalapadaya is in fact a ritualistic dance that is performed in healing rituals of Shanti Karma across up-country, low-country and Sabarang traditions, and here we are seeing the up-country version of the Kotalapadaya, which originates from Kohomba Kankariya healing ritual as one of 4 Hatpadaya or 7 dance episodes that comprise the Bulat Padaya, Kotalapadaya, Malpadaya, Salupadaya, Polpadaya, Yahanmutti Padaya and Anguru Dummala Padaya. The role of Kotalapadaya dance ritual in the Kohomba Kankariya is to purify the ritual site with saffron water, where saffron considered as the natural purifier in our native traditions, which is still believed and practiced even in modern times. The first dance item of Sri Dalada Maligawa Perahara throughout the 11 days of parading shall be a representation of Udarata Hatpadaya, focus on either the Bulat Padaya dance or Kotalapadaya dance, and interestingly this Kotalapadaya dance had been included in Esala Perahara in the means of performance based dance only from very recent history since 2010.
We are seeing the arrival of the third tusker this evening, who will be carrying an official with a Buddhist flag. And the role of this Buddhist flag on the third tusker is to symbolize the fact the procession you and I are witnessing right now is truly a Buddhist festival. And this tusker we will be seeing now is Janaraja, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables. Janaraja is a tusker who is famed as the elephant who bears the longest tusks in Sri Lanka right now. He was gifted to the Sri Dalada Maligawa in the year 1988 by the former President of Sri Lanka, Mr. J.R. Jayawardena. Janaraja too is a tusker who was once designated with carrying the sacred relic casket back in the year 2000, and this evening we will be seeing him leading the way as the third elephant. This evening the Perahara commenced at the auspicious hour of 6:54 p.m, heading the auspicious direction of north, and shall parade down the Dalada Vidya, Kotugodella Vidya, and conclude ascending the Rajavidya. We are now seeing the Chamara dance performance that is represented by Mr. Nimesh Sumanaraka of the Chandananda Buddhist College in Kandy.
The ancient poetic anthology that was written during the kingdom of Kotte, that is famously known as Salalihini Sandesha quotes, that rides tussles in motion along with the majestic elephants are the one of the supreme sights of the auspicious visualities, and the Chamara dance is certainly an inclusion to add more auspicious value to this Perahara. Chamara is a popular upcountry folk dance that is one of the most visually mesmerizing dance act of the Perahara this evening. The Chamara is a white tussled object that was used historically as fanning tool to the sacred tooth relic. Are fanned to the rhythm of the flute and Candian drums, where the gentle cool breeze that is produced by this Chamara bring a very pleasant feeling. This was in fact a regular feature of the royal court in our ancient history. The Chamara dancers swing these white tassels in various stanzas that not just create a soothing visual to the audience but also remind the audience of the ancient times, in which the Chamara played a prominent role in cooling ourselves in the absence of the modern day equipment that we are using today.
Following the Chamara dance, we are seeing the arrival of the very first representation of female elephants in the Dalada Perahara for this season's Kandy Esala Perahara. And interestingly, both of these elephants share the same name, which is Devmini. The Devmini on the left side is belonging to Venerable Boralandi Vajranyana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sri Sambodhi Viharaya in Colombo, and the Devmini on the right side belongs to Mrs. Vijayanthi Perera of Horana. And it is interesting to note that both of these elephants Devmini are two of the most youngest participants of this year's Kandy Esala Perahara. It is an interesting fact from history that in the ancient times, the sacred tooth relic has been considered as a private property of the king, and the public had never been able to permit it in having a chance of worshipping it. And indeed, it was the thankful move by King Kirti Sri Raja Singha who declared that the relics need to be taken in procession for the public to witness and venerate for blessings. And with that interesting fact, we are now moving on to the Nayandi dance performance, which is represented this evening by Mr. Saman Nilvitha.
The Nayandi dance is one of the most significant dance performances of the upcountry tradition that holds a very prominent position in Kandy Esala Perahara, especially during the Kumbal Perahera festivals. The word Nayandi is in fact the name of the costume that is worn by the Nayandi dancers, which is the same costume that is worn by the Kandyan West dancer, with the exclusion of the devoted headdress that is replaced with a cloth turban with a knot on the head centered that is taken the shape of a cobra.
the sight of elephants is truly majestic, and we are seeing another duo of elephants who add nothing but a sense of glamour and majesty to this evening's Perahara. Here we see the elephants Vijitha Raja belonging to Venerable Dibulagala Rahula Alankara Theru, the chief incumbent of the Dibulagala Forest Monastery, and on the other side we see the elephant Kandulavira belonging to Venerable Kanangamanharada Theru, the chief incumbent of the Kaduvela Sanka Vihara. In fact, both of these elephants are two of the most prominent elephants of the Dalada Perahara segment due to their physical attributes and similarities in size. Vijitha Raja is an elephant who was gifted to the Dibulagala Forest Monastery in the year 1990 by the former Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranasinghe Premadasa, and Kandulavira on the other side was gifted in the year 2011 by the former Minister, Mr. Vimal Veeravansha. You are joining us with a live broadcast brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau, all the way from the citadel of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Following the majestic sight of the two elephants, Vijitha Raja and Kandulavira, we will be seeing the Sabarang dance performance that is represented by the Nalanda Buddhist College.
Dance items which involves these tuskers are used quite often in this Perahara, but it's not the usual Chamara dance we have witnessed previously. This dance, which is recognized as the Sabarang dance, is similar dance to Chamara, but with a difference in the prop that is used. The savarama, the main tool used by these dancers, consists of not one but two tassels attached on both its ends, which makes it a longer version of the Chamara instrument. However, the savarama too is meant to serve the same purpose as the Chamara, which is to fan and cool the impending icon of worship, which was traditionally the king and today the relic casket or the reliquaries of God.
Following the Sabarang dance performance, we are seeing quite a special elephant of the 5th Kumbal Perahera this evening. This elephant is Taraka, belonging to Mr. Kularatna Vijayatunga, the chief priest of the Kaduwela Sri Siddharankadu Pattini Devalaya. On Taraka's mount we see two officials carrying very special weapons, brass canopies and the snake head canopies to signify protection to the impending relic casket. In fact, Taraka is considered as the second tallest elephant living in Sri Lanka, and it is a privilege to have him walking in great majesty in this evening's Dalada Perahara. In fact, Taraka is an elephant who had once carried the ceremonial godly ornaments in the processions of both Lord Pattini and Lord Kataragama in previous years, and it is great to have Taraka back in the procession of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. This procession is a true reflection of Buddhist worship, while it is also representing a frozen image of ancient service known as Rajakarya, where people of different occupational caste perform duties to the king in return for enjoying the utility of royal lands and grants. And next we are seeing the Likeli or the wood tapping dance performance that is represented this evening once again by Mr. Nimesh Sumanaratna of the Chandananda Buddhist College in Kandy, making it the second dance performance that we will be seeing from the Chandananda Buddhist College.
Legally is also another interesting folk dance of the upcountry tradition that consists of performers having two wooden sticks on their hands who shall dash them together in a rhythm individually and even among pairs or at time group. Is a folk dance itself is to set a village picture for the audience, but the origin of the exact movement performed can be guessed as the ancient practice for war battles among the folk lifestyles, as the name of the dance itself with the word Kellier translate to battle. Tempo that is performed in several episodes of the Likeli dance creates a sense of energy that truly creates a battle atmosphere, which once again connects the folk dance with the previously told affiliations with a war rehearsal. one of the dance performances which has been performed since more than centuries ago, which is proved by evidence that is still visibilized to all of us. In fact, the wooden carvings of Ambakke Kataragama Devalaya that belongs to the Gampula era too portrays a pictorial carving that illustrates a Lee performance.
While the Lee Kelly dance performance moves out of our sight, we are seeing the arrival of another majestic elephant. In fact, a very special elephant to the Kandy Esala Perahera. This elephant is none other than the great elephant Salia, belonging to the historic Mahiyangana Rajamahaviharaya, to the chief priest, Venerable Urulavatte Sri Dhammarakita Thero. This elephant was gifted to the former Mahanayaka Thero of the Askiriya chapter, Venerable Palitane Chandananda Thero, who is in fact the inceptor of the Chandananda Buddhist college which we spoke about previously. And this year is in fact his 45th consecutive year taking part in the Kandy Esala Perahera, where he has been taking part in this great procession consecutively ever since he was just 5 years old. This is the aerial view of the great citadel of Kandy as it is lit up to welcome the 4th Kumbal Perahera this evening. The cooling breeze from the surroundings and the Udavatta forest from the right and the Kandy lake on the left certainly creates the feel of how nature too contributes to the Perahera by displaying its unmatched unique forms of beauty to this Perahera that shall bless our country. And following that, we are now seeing the Raban dance performance that is represented by Mr. Janaka Amunugama.
The Rabana or hand tambourine is a very popular object used in the folk dancing tradition in Sri Lanka known as the Raban Natuma. There are many forms of Raban in Sri Lanka. We have the Maharabana or the Bankurabana, which is a large drum that is played by multiple artists at the same time, the Virindu Rabana that is played while singing comical verses of Virindu, and the Atrabana, which we see now that the most prominently seen in dance-related performances. is at times recognized as a drum of prosperity. Belonging to the Arthur classification of traditional musical instruments, both the Raban and Bumadier, which are the drums played only using bare hands, are used in the agricultural entertainment and ritualistic activities in the village setup. The Raban dance involved atmaru or changing of hands while performing this dance, and the tunes we hear being played by the dance orchestra are authentic recites that are exclusively to the Raban dance itself.
It is quite interesting to see how two different Raban performances are included in this set, where we previously saw the traditional Raban folk dance, and now we are seeing the Raban acrobatic segment, which is known as Raban Krida. Following the Raban Krida performance, we will now be seeing another elephant of the Dalada Perahera this evening. And this elephant is in fact taking part in the Dalada Perahera segment after many years. Welcoming back Sanka Raja, the elephant belonging to Venerable Kokavala Kosalathero, the chief incumbent of the Sankapada Rajamahaviharaya in Ambilipitiya. Sanka Raja was gifted to this temple in the year 2011 by the former president Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha. With the world changing while revolutionizing ancient cultures, traditions and practices, one would wonder if the same diminishing cultures apply to these Kandian traditions too. Certainly not. For Sri Lankans, this is a devotion, and this is the same reason why we see very young to very old people taking part in the Perahara to give out their best. And this too is a good sign for the future of the Perahara. And following that, we are seeing the Pantheru dance performance that is represented by Mr. Sarath Vijayasiri.
Pantheru is an up-country styled folk dance act that is known for its fast tempo when compared to other folk dances act that is performed in the country. The dancers hold a set of wooden splinters known as Pantheru on one hand, and they perform to the beat of the up-country Gataberaya drum and the melodious flute while clapping the splinters on various designated parts of the body. Pantheru dance may explicitly seems as if it's an singular choreograph, but carefully attention would show how these dances involves group work where we see in performers collaborating with each other as a group and in subgroups that are highlights in unity and harmony among the village youth of Sri Lanka.
Just as a person would enjoy seeing these beautiful dance performances in the Perahara, one of the most important other elements of the Perahara that people, the spectators, enjoy a lot is the sight of these majestic elephants. And here we are seeing a group of another two elephants who are walking with great majesty in the fourth Kumbal Perahara, with officials carrying brass canopies, symbolizing protection to the impending relic casket. This duo of elephants is represented by the elephant Muthu belonging to Venerable Murundeniye Dhammaratana Thero, the chief incumbent of the historic Muthiyangana Rajamahawihare in Badulla, who is accompanied by the elephant Kandulatissa belonging to the historic Ratnapura Mahasaman Devalaya. In fact, both Kandulatissa and Muthu are being kept safely next to each other these days in the historic amphitheatre of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where any person can pay a visit to see how these elephants are well maintained during the daily hours of the Sri Dalada Perahara, where they are fed, bathed and taken care very well by the experienced mahouts and the management of the Sri Dalada Maligawa and the administrations of the four respective devalayas. The Perahara is a great cultural spectacle that infuses both Buddhist and several Hindu cultural practices, along with minute variations of elements relating to both Mahayana and Theravada traditions of Buddhism. We are now seeing a mixed folk dance that is represented by Mr. P.C.B. Vijay Surya.
Traditional dancing in Sri Lanka is segregated into two main types, which are the Shastra Natuma or dance performance that are based on healing rituals, and the other being Gaminatum or folk dance performances. The dance that we see now is a remarkable fusion of not just one but 4 different folk dance performances being danced simultaneously in the same spotlight. see the dance artists presenting 4 different folk dances, which are the Thalampata, the Likali, Raban and the Sabarang, which we would see being performed as individual dance items across all 5 segments of this majestic Perahara, and this dance act is certainly a snapshot of the beauty of Sri Lankan folk culture. Is represented as one team, but if we would clearly observe how they break themselves into sub-teams among themselves based on their designated dance. It is true that it is the same music that it's being played for the whole group, but this music plays the tune for 4 different dance acts that involves 4 different props and 4 different steps of dance, which are being carefully presented to maintain their cultural identity.
The troupe of tuskers who we are about to see next is a very promising sight. The most senior ceremonial tusker in Sri Lanka, the great tusker Vasana of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragava Devalaya, who is walking with the 2 future ceremonial tuskers of Sri Lanka right besides him. On one side, the tusker Raju, belonging to the most venerable Mahanayaka Thero of the Asgiriya chapter, Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thero, and on the other side, the tusker Sindhu, belonging to the most venerable Mahanayaka Thero of the Malvatta chapter, Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Thero. So this is the future walking alongside with the present king of tuskers living in Sri Lanka. The sight of three tuskers walking ahead of the Perahara is to symbolize the fact that we are just about to witness the most anticipated moment of the fourth Kumbal Perahara this evening, which is the arrival of the great troop of ceremonial tuskers who will be carrying the Perahara relic casket. And this live production is brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. And to welcome the ceremonial tuskers, we will be seeing the first troupe of West dancers who are represented this evening by Mr. Ishanta Ihalavela and Mr. Lasanta Vansekara.
The most unique and the most recognized presentation of the Kandyan dance heritage is the most fully adorned West Natua or the Kandyan West dancer. The Kandyan dancers' skill and the dance form have been considered as an authentic expression of Sri Lankan culture. In fact, it is an icon of the West dancer who is the branding identity of traditional Sri Lankan dancing across the seven seas, despite the presence of many artistic dance performers that are authentic to traditional Sri Lankan dance. It is amusing to hear that it is the same picture that is illustrates on one's mind when they hear the phrase Sri Lankan dance, which we would be certainly proud of. The West dance is more than just a ritual, it is a sacred recitation for the protection against the misfortune. Therefore, the costume of these dancers are also considered sacred. This most glamorous costume symbolically represents the regalia of the King Malaya, the royalty who performed the ancient ritual of Hatapas Mangalya, which is healing ceremony that was being held 2500 years ago.
now see the Kari Kamapur, who will be dressed in the white Tupoti costume, and the royal official who shall hold responsibility for all engagements in regard to the offerings, the Perahara and the relic casket. He is only seconded to the Dalada Nilame and is the only person in the Perahara who has the permission to walk forwards and backwards within the Perahara. It is in fact the Kari Kamapur who represents the Dalada Nilame in other routine Peraharas of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, including the procession of the new harvest, Vesak, Procession and Kartika. Very special orchestra that you will be here right now is the Naga Singham instrument list, which is an Indian influenced ensemble of music that plays an authentic music to escort the relic casket as part of the traditions that were conducted in Lord Buddha's origin country, India too. And this was added to the Perahara from the time of King Veeraparakrama Narendra Singham. The ensemble includes 2 drums known as the Thabboru, 2 special flutes and an instrument known as Kailatama, and this music must be played with no pause until the relic casket is played on the tusker and until it's brought back to the relic chamber. And this evening, the royal tusker who is tasked with carrying the Perahara relic casket is none other than the leader of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stable of elephants, none other than the great tusker Indira. This evening, Indira is accompanied by his 2 stablemates also belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, his Burmese brothers Burumaraja and Pulatisi Raja. Let us now take a moment to feel the devotion and worship the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha. This is the Kavikara Madhua of the Chamber of Versifiers, the group of poets who walk behind the relic casket while singing the virtues of Lord Buddha. These versifiers are holding several instruments including the Pantheru and the Udakya, and the specialty of the Kavikara Madhua is that these versifiers shall sing and only perform when the relic casket is taken out of the relic chamber and shall sing until it is reverentially played back after the Perahara. This too is in fact an offering of King Veera Parakrama Narendra Singha to the sacred tooth relic. The next highlight of the Dalada Perahara will be the arrival of the Diyavadana Nilame of the 4th Kumbal Perahera, and the task of escorting the Diyavadana Nilame is delegated to none other than the majestic West dancers. And this troupe of West dancers have been represented by Mr. Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Mr. Peter Surasena.
In 4th century BC, when the first ever Hatapas Mangalya was performed in Sri Lanka by Malaya king to cure devitors or godly curse that had been bestowed upon the king Panduasdev, who is in fact descendant of King Vijaya, the Indian prince who discovered the land of king as Tambapanni. The story of King Vijaya and his tribal wife Queni is in fact the birth story of the royal tradition of Kandian dancing, which is quite interesting to learn. According to history, Queni was the princess of Yaksha tribe in Sri Lanka who becomes the wife of King Vijaya upon his arrival to Sri Lanka, being the first young lady who he witnesses just after discovering this copper-sanded land of Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, it is the sad incident when Queni was betrayed by King Vijaya, which led to be devastated Queni, who was left out with both her children. Being frustrated with the pressure, Queni cursed King Vijaya and his descendant, which ultimately affected King Panduasdev, who was relative of King Vijaya. The dancers who perform in this part of Perahara are not just random participants, but in fact they have been performing in Kandy Perahara as lineage since the time of their great ascenders. We see the ancestral lineage of the Talgahagoda, Verapitiya, Surasena, Bandara and Ihalavela, to name a few. The costume that is worn by the West dancers are very unique to its belief to half of the exact same costume that was the regalia of Malaya king. The colors of white and red take prominence as the only shades present in West costume that is different in multicolored costumes that we see in our low country tradition of dance. It's interesting to hear that this costume contains 64 different pieces of accessories that includes paimpat,
So those inclusions are the Paimpata, the Nettimalaya, Thodupat, Karapatiya, Aulharaya, Deuramalaya, Bubulupatiya, Silambu, Uludeya, Bandivalalu and Hangala to name a few. It is the custom of the Kumbal Perahera where the Diyavadana Nilame himself shall only walk in majesty in the first Kumbal Perahera. And as per the tradition, the fourth Kumbal Perahera is represented by the Basanayake Nilame of the Sri Maha Katharagama Devali in Kandy. And just as mentioned, today Diyavadana Nilame is represented by the Basanayake Nilame of the Sri Maha Katharagama Devali in Kandy, Honorable Daminda Bandara Udurala. Representation of the Diyavadana Nilame too shall walk under the Mutukudera or the pearl umbrella, surrounded by his army of guards and followed by the Vidani or the chieftains of the 10 associated villages of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. And that marks the end of the Dalada Perahara, and we shall be commencing the procession of the Sri Maha Natha Devalaya. The Sri Maha Natha Devali in Kandy is located right in front of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where it is considered as the main shrine that is dedicated towards Lord Natha, and one of the oldest buildings in Kandy that was built even before the Sri Dalada Maligawa. The procession of the Natha Devalaya is the first to follow the Dalada Perahara due to the belief that God Natha is next in line to attain Buddhahood. The first item of the Sri Mahanatha Esala Perahera will be the Buddhist flag bearers, which are represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallekele.
The Buddhist flag is a symbol of faith and peace. The 6 colors of the flag represents the colors of auras that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the sacred Bodhi tree. The white flag flag bearers remind the people on the way the Dhamma impacted their lives from the day the sacred tooth relic was brought to the island, and also the calm atmosphere symbolically portrays the way to the end of this cycle of samsara.
Next, we are seeing the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, which is represented by the veteran artist Mr. S.Y.G. Jaisena.
Hevisi is in fact the predominant form of music that is used for religious veneration in Buddhism and Buddhist affiliated gods in Sri Lanka, and this orchestra too has its own differences, not just in traditional but according to situation. When the sacred relic casket is carried out from Sanal chamber, the situational variants of Puja Hevisi shall be played, and this shall change to the Vadamana Hevisi when the relic casket is being carried towards to the ceremonial tusker. Hevisi is believed to be spiritually healing the ill and creates immense satisfaction when being heard by devoted person. Interestingly, many locals and foreign visitors find it very soothing to say within Dalada Maligawa premises during the daily offering times or Thevawa, as the entire surrounding of this temple of tooth gets filled with symphonic sound of Hevisi, which dives deep into our blood and creates patriotic feeling about ourselves, our region, culture and our tradition. Of Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy is recognized since as Jayabhumiya, or the land with luck, since the time of our ancestors, based on the indication by an ancient Brahmin named Sankara.
Here we see the first elephant of the Sri Mahanatha Devada Perahara carrying the flag of Raban, which is a unique symbol that can be seen kept on the first elephant to be paraded in the procession of God Natha. And this official is on the mount of Arjuna belonging to Venerable Karatota Panyasinatharu, the chief incumbent of the Vairukandada Buddha Raja Vihara of Likwell. And next we are seeing the legally dance performance, in fact the second legally dance act which we will be seeing in the Perahara tonight. And this dance is represented by Mr. H.M.G. Upali Dharmaratna.
Lekali is also another interesting folk dance of upcountry tradition that consists of performers having two wooden sticks on their hands who shall dash them together in rhythm individually and even among paris or at time group.
The second elephant of the Sri Mahanatha Devada Perahara this evening is the elephant Sumana, belonging to Venerable Buralande Vajradana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sambodhi Vihara in Colombo. Following Sumana, we are now seeing a Sabarang dance performance. And this Sabarang dance performance is led by Mr. Dilshan Shalika.
An amazing fact behind Sri Mahanatha Devalaya is that it was the sacred site which was used for naming and crowning of the new kings during the ancient Kandyan era. The inheritors of the crown would customarily visit the Vishnu Devalaya first and then arrive at Sri Mahanatha Devalaya to pick their favored name as the king among the golden name plates, and then he crowned amidst all worship and respect. Of this folk dance that's styled of upcountry tradition is designed to symbolize fanning that they performed using the different dance steps, different stanzas, and the visual beauty that is created by these tassels in motion are surely a soothing sight to the eye.
The third elephant of the Sri Mahanatha Devala procession this evening is Sudu Mahattaya, belonging to the magistrate Mr. Tilina Gamagi of Maharagama.
The Natha Devalaya is believed to be built as an offering toward the god Natha by King Vikramabahu III, and the royal buildings including the palace had been built in its surroundings.
We are just about to reach another important episode of the Perahara. And before that, we are seeing a Pantheru dance performance that is represented this evening by Mr. Ruan Marasinghe.
The Natha Devalaya is built in the form of a Gedige Devalaya, which is an Indian architectural style during the Gampala era. That is the main shrine dedicated towards the god Natha, and adjoining the main buildings is smaller shrine that is decided to the god Gambara.
This is the pinnacle moment of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, where we will be seeing the arrival of the ceremonial troupe of elephants, who will be welcomed by the Nayandi dancers. And this troupe of Nayandi dancers are trained by Mr. Asanka Karunaratna. It is in fact the tradition that the requiraries of the four Devalayas will be welcomed by Nayandi dancers in the Kumbal Peraheras, who will be replaced by the West dancers starting from the Rondoli Perahera onwards.
It is believed that the Dutch armies had used this same space as their resting place when they arrived to meet the king. Another highlight of the Natha Devala premises is the historic Ashtapala Bodhi tree that is framed as the Valbodhiya, which is much worshipped by all devotees who visits Sri Dalada Maligawa.
We are seeing the chief trustee of the Sri Mahanatha Devali in Kandy, and he is walking ahead of the ceremonial elephant carrying the requilleries of Lord Natha. And this evening, the requilleries of Lord Natha will be carried by the ceremonial elephant Rohana, belonging to Mr. Varuna Kannanga of Hola. And in fact, the role of carrying the requilleries of Lord Natha have always been a part of the elephants who have belonged to the Kannangara family of Hola. And this evening, Rohana will be accompanied by the elephant Kandula, belonging to Venerable Devalegama Dhammasena Thero, the chief incumbent of the Tissa Maharama Raja Mahaviharaya, and Kueni, belonging to Mr. Mahinda Millangoda of Kegol. And let us take a moment to worship the requilleries of Lord Natha. And that marks the end of the procession of Lord Natha, and we shall move on to the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya.
The Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy, that is also prominently identified as the Maha Devalaya or the Great Shrine, is the main shrine in the hill capital that is dedicated to Lord Vishnu among the Satara Maha Devalaya in Kandy.
The first item of the Sri Maha Vishnu Esala Perahera, as always, are the provincial and state flag bearers. Lord Vishnu is believed to be the protector of Sri Lanka under the discretion of Lord Buddha, which is why we see the flags of several old administration districts and states to symbolize that Lord Vishnu has his protection on all of these flags. And the first elephant in this evening's procession of the Lord Vishnu is the elephant who will be carrying an official with the sun and moon flag. He is on the mount of the elephant Harita, belonging to Mr. Tusita Ranavaka of Deniyaya. We now see the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya, which is led by Mr. Saman Priyanta Arlegevara, who will be representing the Alutnuvara lineage of Hevisi.
Sri Lanka is rich with its own genres of traditional music and Hevisi, which is dignified as the authentic sound of Sri Lanka. The history of Hevisi takes back to the time when the sapling of Jai Sri Mahabodhi tree was brought down to Sri Lanka by Sanghamittharaniya, and this evidence marks the fact of Hevisi is oldest traditional orchestra and Buddhist sound offering Sri Lankan heritage.
You are witnessing the live broadcast of the 4th Kumbal Perahara, brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where you are now witnessing the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya. And here we see a duo of elephants. On one side, the elephant Banda, belonging to Mr. Sisira Samarakod of Maramala, and along with the elephant Muthu, belonging to Mr. Indika Mudunku of Kandy. In fact, both Banda and Muthu have been regular participants of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya Perahara for over 2 decades. We are now seeing a troupe of Sabarang dancers represented by Mr. Raban Tagahagoda.
The sweet tune of that is blown using the flute is very mesmerizing to the ear, and the tune we hear from these flutes are the fact-specific poems that are exclusively written for the Sabarang dance known as Sabarang Kavi. Following this beautiful Sabarang dance performance, we are now seeing the arrival of 3 majestic elephants. In the middle, we have the elephant Suranimala, who belongs to the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy itself, who was gifted to the Alutnura Dadimunda Devalaya in the year 2017, and he is accompanied by the elephant Kumari belonging to Mr. Kamalirugal Bandar of Kottawa, and the elephant Surani belonging to Mr. Deepthi Kumara of Biyagama. The Vishnu Devalaya is located northeast to Sri Dalada Maligawa, which is accessed easily via the Raja Vidya and is considered as the most prominent religious site in Kandy that is only seconded to Sri Dalada Maligawa.
This is the arrival of the Nayandi dance troupe, who shall be welcoming the royal elephant who will be carrying the Perahara, the requilleries of Lord Vishnu. we see the chief trustee of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy walking ahead of the ceremonial elephant. And this evening in the 4th Kumbal Perahera, the ceremonial elephant Rama, belonging to Mr. Tudor Gunasekara of Heyanthudua, will be carrying the requiliaries of Lord Vishnu. Rama is accompanied by the elephant Vasana, belonging to Mrs. Krishanti Alapatha of the legendary Alapatha Valavu in Ratnapura, and the elephant Chuti Venike, belonging to Mr. Bharata Amaratunga of Meegoda. Let us take this moment to feel and worship the blessings of Lord Vishnu. And that marks the end of the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy, where we will be now moving on to the procession of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya.
The Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy is one of the key places of worship that are dedicated to Lord Kataragama in the city of Kandy, and the speciality of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya being the only out of Satara Maha Devalaya or 4 main shrines that is located outside the premises of Sri Dalada Maligawa, as it is located in the Kotugadala Vidya, which was known as the ancient Kavikara Vidya, where the poets of king had used to reside during the times of royalty.
Here we see the flag bearers of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya representing Buddhist flags and peacock flags, represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallikele. And we are also seeing the first elephant to walk in the procession of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, who is the little elephant Hesara, belonging to Mr. Ajit Gallage of Hambantota. Following the junior strides of Hesara, we are now about to see the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy. And this troupe of Hevisi is represented by Mr. P.V. James.
Just like how the Hevisi troupe of Sri Dalada Maligawa procession engage in their own routine offerings, the Hevisi troupe of 4 Devala Peraharas are actual lineage who still perform in daily, weekly, monthly and annual rites and rituals of particular Devalaya, as Hevisi is not just part of Sri Dalada Maligawa's rituals, but it's also similar important to offering the Devala shrines.
And this elephant is Parami, belonging to Mr. Samantha Vijayamana of Nadagoda. Next we are seeing a Sabarang dance performance that is represented by Mr. Suraj Manushan of the Divyanjali Aesthetic Academy.
The Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya had been built during the region of King Narendra Singha, who ruled in country from the year 1707 to 1739, where it was considered as personal Devala shrine to the Kandyan kings for their devotional rituals in order to receive blessings of Lord Kataragama.
We are seeing the third elephant of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala Perahara, who is Rani, belonging to Mr. Nalaka Jaisingha of Godagama. The next dance performance we are going to see is the Thalam dance, that is represented by Mr. Ajit Premadasa. In fact, he's the son of Mr. Ajit Premadasa, who is Mr. Chaman Madhushanka Premadasa. And this troupe is represented by the Daulagala Saraswati Aesthetic Academy and the Situkala Aesthetic Academy.
The Thalam Potter, or the small set of cymbals, are a vital instrument used in all forms of traditional dancing in Sri Lanka and also India to maintain the piece of rhythm of dance that is technically mentioned as the Tit Matra. But here the Thalam dance considered these little cymbals as the main prop itself, where the dancers play the cymbals in denoted rhythm which align the footwork and the handed movements accordingly.
The Thalam dance is just about to conclude with the sight of two beautiful elephants, Sandali and Denuka, both belonging to Mr. Ajit Galagi of Hambantota. We are just about to witness the most important occasion of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala Perahara, the arrival of the ceremonial elephant who shall be carrying the requiraries of Lord Kataragama. And this is the troupe of Nayandi dancers represented by Mr. Malagamman of the Malagamman Aesthetic Academy.
Many Kandyan professional dancers who perform in West dance in the Kohomba Kankariya, the main healing ritual of upcountry tradition, are culturally not practicing the West dance elsewhere in social occasions. Due to the same reason, any of such ritualistic West dances would only perform in Nayandi dance in other social gathering events, just as Perahara itself.
or the traditional Brahmin priest of the Sri Maha Katharagama Devala in Kandy, walking ahead of the ceremonial elephant. And this evening, the requiraries of Lord Katharagama will be carried by the elephant Esala, belonging to Venerable Katugasthara Sarvathera, the chief incumbent of the Pirisyala Sena Nayaka Mudalinda Ramaya. Esala will be accompanied by the elephant Aruna, belonging to Venerable Higgoda Chandimathero, the chief incumbent of the Wattala Handala Rajamaha Viharaya. Let us take a moment to worship the virtues of Lord Katharagama. And that marks the end of the procession of Lord Katharagama, and we shall be seeing the final segment of the 4th Kumbal Perahera, which is the commencement of the Sri Maha Pattini Devala Perahera.
The Sri Maha Pattini Devalaya in Kandy is only shrine of Kandian Satara Maha Devalaya that is dedicated to the virtue goddess Pattini, who is also the only female representation among the guardian deities of the sacred tooth relic. This Devalaya is located in the premises of Sri Dalada Maligawa, which can be easily reached via the Deva Vidya and is separated from Sri Mahanatha Devalaya from the ancient Atvidya, which is used to be the resting ground for the royal elephants.
The first item of the Sri Maha Pattini Devala Perahera are the Buddhist flag bearers represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallekele. And following the Buddhist flags, we are now seeing the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Pattini Devala in Kandy, represented this evening by the veteran and traditional artists Mr. M.G. Palika Nishanka, Mr. M.G. Sirisena and Mr. M.G. Premadasa.
It is fascinating to know how all of these blend of all these instruments individually contribute to the symphonic sound of overall assembly. When the musically analyzing the instruments on its own, we see the dowler is used to create a deep echoing sound, and the thumb atama on the other hand creates a noise that is heard to a far distance, while the horanava, a high-pitched wind noise, and all of these are put together to create iconic symphonic that is covered the heritage of Sri Lanka.
the first dance item of the Sri Mahapattini Devala Perahara is the Painpath or the female Nayandi dance performance that will be represented this evening by Mr. Dhananjana Jayaratna of the Dhananjana Jayaratna Dance School of Kadugannada.
One may wonder if the elegant presentations of Kandyan dancing is only biased towards the male. As we notice in the dance of Ves and Nayandi, this thought is certainly proved wrong with this dance act, which is in fact the same Nayandi dance we saw before, but this time the female representation that is choreographed in a way which suits for feminine atmosphere that is expected out of female performer. Of Kandyan dance classifies such female dance presentations as Narinatum, which translates to dance act which are specifically designed to suit the manner and the order of females.
The next dance performance is the hand pot or the Kalagidi dance that is represented by the team trained by Mr. Nalinda Ruthman of the Thandava Aesthetic Academy of Pujapitiya.
The shrine devoted to the goddess Pattini in Kandy is simple, small rectangular building on the usual stone platform. It consists of 4 compartments including the traditional Kandyan roof adorns, golden entrance to the chamber and charming elegance that makes this Devalaya as simple but beautiful shrine that is home to many devotees who flock to this Kandyan shrine to worship goddess Pattini. In addition to the shrine dedicated to the goddess Pattini, we also witness a shrine made towards goddess Durga in the same premises.
In fact, the Sri Mahapattini Devala Perahara is adding another sense of glamour to the entire procession due to the inclusion of female dance performances. And one thing can be noticed where the Kalagidi Natuma or the pot dance which we saw previously uses the pot. And the next dance we see here is the Kulu dance or the winnowing fan dance performance that is represented by Mr. Chaminda Jayawardena of the Nelligala Shakya Singha Sandaruma Nertha Ashram. And what I wanted to point out is that both of these dance acts we saw consecutively are using tools that are used commonly by females in village folklore. And that is the main reason why we call these dance items as folk dance items, since it is a depiction of the village lifestyle of typical Sri Lankans.
The male-dominated presence of artists that we saw previously is no longer visible as we see the entrance of female representation of the Perahara, which is indeed the speciality of the Sri Mahapattini Devala Perahara. Being the only goddess that is venerated in this religious pageant, this segment of Perahara not just celebrate the virtue of goddess Pattini but also celebrates the greatness of women and their values to the existence of the world. Goddess Pattini is also known as Kannagi Amman in Tamil folklore, where we find many kovils in Sri Lanka that are built by Sri Lankan Hindus to pay respect to their faith of Goddess Pattini as Kannagi Amman.
The next dance item, also represented by female artists, is the Thalam dance performance. This time trained by Mr. Aruna Pradeep of the Sri Lanka Nritta Janakala Mandalaya of Gampala. The Thalam potter is an instrument that is made of metal that traditionally mix of brass and bronze, which once again reminds us how performing arts are not just only the participants' talent of the Perahara, but even the talented brassmiths of Sri Lanka celebrated in this great pageant. The Thalam dance is classified a folk dance of upcountry tradition where it does not connect to any healing ritual but instead pictures a village lifestyle atmosphere with the youth practicing the basis of dance.
The female representation of the thalam has side challenges that are being effectively met by these dancers. The norms of Sri Lankan traditional dancing has two gender-based variants named Tandava and Lasya, which differentiate steps based on gender.
We see the final single elephant who shall be seen in the Perahara this evening, who is none other than the elephant Manike, belonging to Mrs. Shriyani Gunamardana of Dang Mobitel. We are now nearing to the final item of the Kandy Esala Perahera's fourth Kumbal Perahera, which you are witnessing right now. And this important occasion is the arrival of the ceremonial troupe of elephants who shall be carrying the requilleries of goddess Pattini. And prior to that, we shall be seeing another dance performance, which I believe is yet another Sabarang dance act. This troupe of Sabarang dancers are represented by Miss Nelka Gajanayake of the Nelka Aesthetic Academy of Murtalawa.
As we stated before, goddess Pattini is much popular among Sri Lankans due to her power in curing diseases among women and small children. This is the same reason many of the Sri Lankan low country healing rituals, including Gam Maduwa, Devol Maduwa and Pahan Maduwa, have accepted its the protagonist deity as goddess Pattini.
This is the mixed folk dance represented by female artists, trained this time by Mr. S.T.C. Palipana of the Rangadari Aesthetic Academy of Gilliwell. This is in fact a combination of several different dance performances which we saw previously in this procession, with the addition of two new tools which we can see: the molgaha, or the stick that is used to blend ingredients in the traditional kitchen, and on the other side the heap of wheat flour that is a part of traditional Sri Lankan agriculture. And here we are seeing the final dance performance of this evening's Perahara, the Nayandi dance, led by the veteran artist Mithun Bandara of the Mithun Bandara Aesthetic Academy of Watapulluwa. And the role of this particular West dance is to welcome the ceremonial elephant who will be carrying the requilleries of goddess Pattini. We can witness the chief priest of the Sri Mahapattini Devalaya Kandy walking in front of the ceremonial elephant. This evening, the role of carrying the ceremonial ornaments of goddess Pattini is dedicated to the elephant Mangala, belonging to Mr. Udaragalapatti of Giriyulla, who is accompanied by the elephant Sita, belonging to Mrs. Nilanthi Veerasinghe of Meerigama, and the elephant Podiraju, belonging to Mr. Chamila Bandaranayak of Peradeniya. Let us take a moment to worship the virtues of goddess Pattini. And that marks the end of the 4th Kumbal Perahera of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2025.
We hope that our country will be blessed with fertility and rains.
May our country prosper.
Dalada Samidu Pihitai.